What insult did you receive that made you rethink an aspect of your life? Do you have any redeeming qualities? It was a joke, but I was just like crap. Do I? Self-reflection is certainly one of them. I used to think so much of you. Ooh, still stings a little. Because they complimented the you of yesterday, then made you do some math to get your current standing. Ouch. A friend of a friend guessed that I was 22 years old. I'm 28. And I was stuck thinking I was keeping my youth until the next day when I learned she only thought I was that young because of my job being not that great. Double ouch. You confuse motion with progress. Ouch. And he was right. It's not motion, it's falling, with style. I'm in my mid-30s. I was out one night and tried hitting on a girl I had been getting to know because we were both regulars at the same bar. She said, "You're like a 25-year-old. Oh, thanks, I said. That wasn't a compliment. After I sobered up the next day I realized that I was clinging desperately to that feeling of being younger and avoiding making meaningful growth and changes in my life. I once had a friend tell me I reminded him of his cousin. We were 17 or 18 years old. I had just done or said something silly funny, so I just thought that his cousin and I had similar humor or whatever. A year or so later I learned that his cousin had been 8 at the time. Some dude was walking around where I work. A co-worker said to me, "I thought that was you." Dude was a big fat bastard. Apparently, so was I. Dang. I had that happen once. A co-worker at a new job said, "Hey, you look just like Annie." I hadn't met Annie, but when I did, I cringed and died a little inside. She was not attractive. When I was in high school and lying to my parents a lot, my mom said, "I don't understand why you are so devious." The word just struck a nerve. It made me reflect on how my default was to hide and keep things secret and that this wasn't normal. I don't lie about things anymore, but it has been a lifelong struggle to be comfortable being truly known by my loved ones, not to fear rejection if they see me for who I am, flaws and all. You perceive everything as a threat. 100% true, but I didn't realize I was being so transparent. It can also be a long-term symptom of childhood abuse trauma. Your wife must be such a good person. You know, adopting stray dogs, helping out the poor, picking up trash on the side of the road. That explains how she ended up with you. How it's all true. My boss loves to tell this story of how he met this guy who took a look at my boss, then my boss's daughter, then back at my boss and said, "You must have a very beautiful wife." The man that made the comment is a motivational speaker, and from Sweden. I can sparsely imagine a person less likely to make such a comment than a motivational speaker from Sweden. An old boss, who was a huge butthole, once forwarded me an email from a client complaining about my presenting skills. She said her colleagues took bets on how many times I said I'm on our conference calls. Up until that moment, I sincerely thought I was good at it. I was super embarrassed and ended up making a big effort to improve. I believe I've come a long way since then. My current company now frequently asks me to do industry speaking events. Lived with some cool frat guys in my early college years, got cool with most of their relatively smaller frat, and started going to parties that they threw. At one I got very intoxicated and subsequently cut off after stumbling through a full-sized window, breaking a 3-foot kitchen window in the middle of winter. They stopped me from driving home and put me on the couch. When I awoke and was freezing cold, because of broken window, I asked one of residents if they were poor and hadn't paid the bill as they were walking out to their car at 9 AM for work. Partially because I'd blacked out and totally forgotten that I had broken the window. Stops, turns, eye contact, my nickname. "You are the biggest freaking butthole I've ever met." At the time, I definitely was. I've done a lot to change since then, but regardless, I'll never forget this statement. As a restaurant manager, I had a guest call to complain and remembered helping him a few hours before. I asked who was helping him and he said the chubby white guy. The next day I changed my diet and started working out. 6 months later I was in the best shape of my life. A girl asked me if I had been in a fire and if that was why my eyebrows were so fricked up, and that's how you give someone a lifelong insecurity. I was asked the same thing, except I had horrible cystic acne that stayed inflamed all through my school years. I was hounding somebody for $1 I was owed. I received 99 pennies. I think that made me realize I needed to let certain things go. They still owe you a penny. You're a manipulative little cow. It was true. You look kinda like a sea kid. This after months of taking prescription Adderall daily, barely getting sleep, barely eating, smoking weed to help me ignore the side effects. I basically walked outside and broke down crying. Quit the stuff that week. Quit my crappy job a month later. About to graduate college. Whoa, thank you for sharing. Quitting Adderall literally changed my life. I was on it for about 10 years. Been off for 6 months and I am now a healthy, emotionally regulated person. With an extra 30 pounds, but I don't even mind that because I don't look emaciated anymore. A friend mine told me in a good way that my personality sucks. When I was 12 or so, a neighborhood mom said I would probably be pretty when I grew up, then side commented to another mom that the ugly ones usually do. I was so humiliated. I ran home and cried. I thought I was cute, but never again. If I was a boy your age, I wouldn't date you, my mother. Before I got sober, I drunk dialed an ex. She said before hanging up the words that made me get clean. You know you hate your parents for being alcoholics and addicts, but you're exactly freaking like them. Celebrated 11 years sober on the 18th of August this last year. Someone said if they were flirting with you they would flirt with anyone. That one just hurt a lot. Didn't realize how unattractive of a person I was. You test people around you and throw them away if they don't pass. My therapist. The only thing that truly ever made me think, well, if there is ever a person to call you out directly, it's a therapist. You think you're being nice but you're actually being a complete butthole. Made me rethink how to end college relationships. The it's not you it's me feels good for no one. I'm glad I heard that actually, since it's such a common thing to think is a nice way to end stuff, but it's still harsh. As an introvert, I am very proud of my people skills and love making people smile. I had a close friend tell me that I seemed fake with first impressions. Made me feel insecure about how everyone I meet views me from then on. As a fellow introvert, I am faking it and know I'm faking it. I also assume many people are faking it too. It's very unsettling. I'm pretty good at guitar, not trying to brag. Stopped playing for a few years because I was too busy getting drunk. Half drunk at a co-worker's house one night and played him a song. Instead of the compliment I was waiting for, he just shook his head and said, "What a waste. You're just a little bee who likes to annoy people." I still think about that. I was being annoying too, so yeah. In 3rd grade, a friend and I were making fun of a girl behind her back for being fat. We didn't think anyone else could hear us, but some other girl did, and she called me a stupid something in Spanish, which despite being young and knowing almost no Spanish I still understood the stupid part. The insult didn't really hurt, but having someone call me out for being mean made me feel bad for what I said. I tried to stop bullying people after that, but the universe decided I had more karma coming my way. My parents switched me to another school for unrelated reasons and I spent the next 5 years being bullied at the new school. Estupido. Would you like to get your brows done today? My nail tech. I'm extremely shy. She said that when she first met me she thought I was arrogant and looking down on everyone. I questioned a couple of other people and turned out my silence was making everyone think that I thought I was better than them. In reality I was so shy that I had to hype myself up to greet the person sitting next to me and then was internally celebrating on the days when I could force myself to say a quick hi. Diagnosis: RBF. You're just so unhappy all the time. Denied it for years, but turns out I have moderate depression and anxiety. Finally 6 years later, decided to get help. Honestly, you're nothing but an afterthought to the rest of us. I'll never forget it. One of my best friends said that to me. It's been denied by the rest of the group, but I'll never stop wondering if maybe he wasn't just drunk and it's the truth. You should find new friends. Caught someone breaking into my house while I was home. As the guy was getting away he called me a fat FCK. Hearing that from some random robber made me think about my weight and I started doing something about it. This one just made me laugh. I got into an argument with my old therapist because she told me that I need to stop blaming the world for my problems and throw out my terrible victim complex. She also told me that expecting the world to accommodate my unrealistic needs and expectations was a waste of time and counterproductive in my journey to a better mental state. How dare she, I thought. I then got up and walked out after a few rude words. 3 years later, and I remembered those words during a particularly low point in my life, and I have never been the same. I'm so much better for it in a way that I cannot describe. Hope you sent her a nice Christmas card, lol. You always leave choices to me and never take initiative. I cannot stand your carelessness. I've always thought that leaving all the meaningless choices to her would have been a kind thing to do. I would have been happy to bear the consequences of her choices. That I danced like I could dance, but I actually can't dance, lol. Frick them. Dance. When I was 14, my best friend's boyfriend asked me where my butt was while staring at it. I've never stopped being hyper aware of my flat butt. That's super dang rude, but kinda funny. I'm sorry, but also thankful for this comment. A girlfriend broke up with me saying I wasn't doing anything with my life and she could do better. She was right. Motivated me to get off my butt and do something with myself. Whenever I feel like I am not making progress or words ring in my head, makes me honestly assess my situation and what I want to do with my life at that time. That was 15 years ago, and I am working on my second degree in an intellectually rewarding career with upward prospects. Thanks, Annalisa. I've had this happen to me a few times. Good on you for using it as motivation. I let it completely destroy me and have been on a downward spiral for almost all of my 20s. You're too clingy. My parents weren't very present in my life, and my first love said this to me. I learned that I needed to stop treating her like the family I wanted and treat her as an individual that had her own life. I learned this lesson after we split. Thankfully so, because I met my wife and we've been together for 5 years now. Isn't it awesome how the negative events teach us lessons we need to learn for the next amazing chapter? That's an awesome story. Oh, I don't think you'll actually go through with it. You've never actually finished anything in your whole life. My mother, when I was seriously considering enlisting. Guess where I'm at now? You can be so much like your father. Ouch. Do not compare me to my father. At this rate, you'll never live. I had my first child at 16 and barely graduated from high school. I worked a full-time job and started at a community college. Years later, 2 weeks before my graduate school commencement, I proudly told my stepfather I was finishing my degree and asked him to come see me graduate. He looked me in the eye and said, "You'll find a way to frick it up." That's when I stopped seeking his approval. JFC, now that is just brutal and so misplaced. You didn't let your circumstances hinder you from bettering yourself. Goodness gracious. You can be very cruel when you want to be. Yes, he was telling me the truth. I mean, that's true for a lot of people though. There's a lot of people out there who would be more than happy to rip every aspect of your life, soul, and body apart if you take them off the wrong way. I slept with a coworker once at a former job. The next day, a different coworker said to me, "I heard you're terrible at sex." That was 8 years ago, and I still haven't gotten over it. I haven't had the nerve to even ask someone out in 8 years because of that. Please do not let that stop you. I've made out with and had sex with guys that were god awful for me, but with other partners that work out perfectly. I also had a guy, whom I slept with once while wasted, tell people I was terrible. I've had many amazing partners that did not think I was terrible. It's sexual compatibility. My middle school best friend lol would make fun of the way I walk cause she said I had too much bounce in my step, and now I concentrate really hard to seem normal even though it literally was normal to begin with. Once in a while, if I feel like everyone is watching me while I'm walking, I forget how and I have to slow down and literally think left, right, left. Having bounce in your step is extremely healthy and athletic. It should be the other way around. People should be self-conscious if they don't have it. This is coming from a speed coach who wishes his athletes had more pep in their step. You have been visited by the sniper kit. A good aim and also accuracy will come your way if you comment snipe well. Kit a like and subscribe, you magnificent person.